My name is Olivia Carter, and if you met me today, you would probably see a strong, confident woman who runs a successful company in New York City. But what most people don't know is the price I had to pay to get here, the sacrifices, the pain, and the betrayal that nearly destroyed me. This is not just a story of love. This is a story of struggle, of loss, and of revenge. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, raised by a single mother who worked two jobs just to keep food on the table. From the time I was little, I knew I wanted more from life. I used to sit by the window at night, watching the stars, telling myself that one day I would build something great. I would not let my mother's sacrifices go to waste. When I was 17, I started working part-time at a diner, saving every dollar I could. And when I finally left for college, I carried her dream and mine together. College wasn't easy. I worked nights, studied during the day, and barely slept. People laughed when I said I wanted to start my own company. They told me it was impossible for a girl like me, without money or connections. But I didn't care. I pushed myself harder. After graduation, while others looked for safe jobs, I took every risk I could. I rented a tiny one-room office, barely big enough for a desk and a chair, and that was the birthplace of my company. I remember the first months so clearly. No heating in winter, eating instant noodles for dinner, and making cold calls to people who hung up before I could finish a sentence. But slowly, step by step, clients began to trust me. My small company started to grow. It was during those early days that I met Daniel. He was 2 years older than me, freshly out of college, looking for a job. He had no experience, but there was something about his eagerness, the spark in his eyes, that reminded me of myself. So I gave him a chance. I hired him as one of my first employees. At the time, I thought I was just giving someone an opportunity, but life had other plans. Working late nights together, sharing the same struggles, and celebrating small victories side by side, we grew close. Too close. Before long, friendship turned into something deeper, and soon Daniel and I were in love. By the time the company became stable, Daniel and I had built not only a business partnership, but a life together. We dated for 3 years, and eventually, he proposed. I remember that night so vividly, the city lights shining through the window, his trembling hands holding the ring, and the way my heart leapt when I said yes. It felt like a dream come true. We had built something together, and now we were building a future. Our wedding was simple but perfect. Surrounded by friends and a few family members, I stood there in my white dress, believing in every promise he made. For the first year of our marriage, everything seemed beautiful. We worked together during the day, came home together at night, laughed, fought, and dreamed like any ordinary couple. But slowly, something changed. Daniel became restless. He started complaining about the company, about me working too much, about the life we had created. At first, I thought it was just stress, but the arguments grew sharper. He began staying out late, making excuses, coming home smelling of perfume that wasn't mine. I confronted him many times, but he twisted the truth, blaming me, saying I was imagining things. And then the cruelty started. He began isolating me. He controlled the finances, the house, even the friendships we shared. And then, one day, without warning, he forced me out. My own husband, the man I had given everything to, tricked me into signing papers I didn't fully read. documents that handed him ownership of parts of the company. And when I resisted, he locked me out of the house we once called ours. I remember standing outside in the rain with just a suitcase in my hand, watching as another woman walked into my home. His new girlfriend, my replacement. The pain was unbearable. My whole world had collapsed. I had lost the man I loved, the house I built, and the company I sacrificed everything for. For weeks, I could barely move. Friends tried to comfort me, but betrayal has a way of cutting deeper than any wound. And yet, in that darkness, something else was born inside me. A fire. I promised myself that I would not remain broken. If Daniel thought he could destroy me, he was wrong. I began rebuilding. I found a small apartment, picked up side jobs, and slowly began to strategize. I studied every loophole, every business record, every transaction Daniel had made. And the more I uncovered, the more I realized he wasn't just cruel. He was corrupt. He had been embezzling money, forging documents, and using the company I built as his personal bank account. My heartbreak turned into determination. I wasn't just going to survive, I was going to take back what was mine. It took months of quiet work, gathering evidence, talking to lawyers, documenting every crime. I played the role of the broken wife in public, so Daniel would never suspect what I was doing. But behind closed doors, I was building my case like a soldier preparing for war. And when the day finally came, I struck. I filed lawsuits, froze bank accounts, and presented the evidence to authorities. The look on Daniel's face when the police showed up at his office was something I will never forget. For once, he wasn't the one in control. He was the one cornered. His girlfriend disappeared the moment things got difficult, and Daniel was left to face the consequences alone. The trial was long and exhausting, but I stood tall through every hearing. I told the truth, backed with proof, and one by one, the lies he had built came crashing down. In the end, Daniel was sentenced to prison for fraud and embezzlement. I not only regained my company, but also the house he had stolen from me. And more importantly, I regained myself. Standing in that courtroom as the judge declared his sentence, I felt a wave of emotions: pain, anger, relief, and above all, strength. I had walked through hell and returned not as the same woman, but as someone stronger. Today, my company thrives more than ever. My employees respect me, my clients trust me, and I finally learned the most important lesson of all. Never let anyone else define your worth. I tell my story not to seek sympathy, but to remind others, especially women, that no matter how deep the betrayal, you can rise again. You can fight back, and you can win. Because I did. My name is Olivia Carter, and this is the story of how I lost everything and how I took it all back.